On this episode of A Soul's Quest podcast, Omar and I are going to be discussing goal setting, problem solving, planning, and the 3 C's. Stay tuned. That's a nice shirt you got on today.
Yeah, you know
what?
what?
Are you chilly? Are you cold?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm feeling comfortable, so I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good actually. I just feel like wearing a long sleeve sweater.
I always like those sweaters on you. So
yeah,
yeah.
Oh.
We need to get some that say A Soul's Quest on them,
or the
logo or something. That would be kind of cool.
You get it like in the patch at the shoulder, like a merit badge.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
A merit badge. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So today we're talking about goal setting, problem solving, planning, and the 3 C's.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just dig right into it, because I know that it's one of the things, goal setting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Setting goals. It's one of the things that I think that is lacking. You really are unsettled. Look at you.
Yeah, I'm all over the place, but go ahead. I'm
you good? You can be
like... No, I think that's it.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm good. All right.
Okay.
Let's launch.
It's okay. So rewind.
Mm-hmm.
So I think setting goals is one of the things that, at least for me, is one of the things that I did not really learn when I graduated from high school, which was a long time ago. But I didn't learn that. I sort of got into goal setting. And I think maybe I had goals, but I didn't really know they were goals. And I really got into goal setting when you and I got together, you know. So what, let's talk about what goals are. Like what?
To me, goals are simple. The goals are the way in which we achieved our values and our needs.
Okay.
So they are the method, they're the roadmap, they are the...
So we have to establish our values and our needs in order to establish goals.
Exactly. In order to establish goals. Because again, if you think about it, let's say you want to be, I want to make money. That's one of the things that everybody wants to do. They want to make money. Mm-hmm. And my first question will be, why? Why do you want to make money? And how much money is enough money? Right? Because if you don't understand the reasons, the value or the need, the reason why you want money, you're just doing it just for the sake of it.
Right. Well, you don't have any goals. You don't know how much money you need. You don't know how
Exactly. So then you're going to be in the endless pursuit of money. So then as a consequence of that, then everything falls by the wayside.
Right.
So you have to give it, goals are ways for us to really consciously think about the reasons and the purpose as to why we do something.
So setting the goals give us meaning.
It does.
Right.
It gives us a meaning. It gives us meaning, and it gives us a sense of direction,
accomplishment.
You will feel accomplished once you
achieve the goals.
Once you achieve the goal.
And one of the things that I want to say about that is that a lot of times people will set unrealistic goals.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of the times I find people that I've had discussions with, when we talk about goals and accomplishing goals, that they set an unrealistic goal. For example. And this isn't to knock anybody, because I think that any goal that anybody establishes is a good goal, but to be realistic about your goal. So if you're saying I want to lose, 80 pounds in January, when I set my New Year's resolution, which is a goal, 80 pounds for some people may be it may be unrealistic, right? It may not even be, it's probably unhealthy, but that is, and then if you don't accomplish that goal,
then you feel defeated.
Then you fall off. You feel,
See, the first thing that a person has to, in my opinion, I hesitate to...
This is all our opinion.
Yeah, well, it is, but I hesitate to make such a blanket statement. So, in my opinion, I think that you should you first have to understand your needs and your values, right? So once you understand that, you have to set the SMART goals, and you know what SMART goals are, and I want you to kind of talk about that in a minute. But you have to be realistic as to your expertise, what are the domains that you're really, really good at, what are the competencies that you have, what competencies do you need to improve, you need to be able to assess what it is that you are given. And based on that, you need to be creating things incrementally, because it is impossible for you to go from, let's say, from you to lose 40 pounds right now, right? You know, that will be like in 6 months. I mean, come on, man. That's crazy. You know,
in 6 months?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It will be ridiculous.
Not the way you love food.
Not the way that I love food. Another way that we eat.
The way we eat.
Well, we eat really good, right? So anyway, so you have to be able to look at the scope of what you have in front of you. And yes, you do have to stretch to push yourself to do more, but you got to start very low.
And that's the idea. When you say stretch, when you're stretching, the idea with that is that you're stretching so that when you accomplish that goal, then what happens as a consequence of that is you build confidence, you build your self-esteem, and it's sort of like this, like you were just talking about, a merit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get these like, and so how do you reward yourself? Yeah. You know what I mean?
I'll give you an anecdote, right? So a lot of what we do, I'm beginning to learn that a lot of the stuff that I say or that we say a lot, it's anecdotes and stories that happen to us. So one of the ways that I learned what a goal was is that when I was a Boy Scout in New York, we used to go on what is called a 5-mile hike. So every new person that came in, or every new Boy Scout that came in who was a tenderfoot, they had to go on this 5-mile hike, right?
5 miles. Okay.
And that 5-mile hike get the, that was the culmination of, you did all this stuff to get to the next rank, right? So to become a tenderfoot. So we used to go.
You're saying that's a Boy Scout thing?
The ranks?
The Boy Scout?
We have different ranks in the Boy Scouts, yeah.
So the first one was what now?
You have like tenderfoot, and then you have, I think it was.
So these are things like you go into
second class, first class, and starred, and hard, and Eagle Scout.
Okay.
So you got different ranks, right? Patrol leaders and
I don't know anything about.
So it's like, it's paramilitary in those in the premise of those things, right?
Okay.
So you always were understanding like where you were, and we used to have these cards that told us exactly what we needed to do in order to get to that second rank, right? So a part of what we did was doing the 5-mile hike, right? So what we did in that 5-mile hike is that we hiked from, we took the train from the Bronx over to the George Washington Bridge. We walked across the bridge, went over the Palisades, went all the way down. There's steps that were built during the Depression era that go all the way down to the Hudson. So one of the things that we did was that we had a beam between two trees, wedged between two trees, and we had to try to walk across it. And
like a 2x4?
Just a log.
Really?
That we found, and we just put it in there, propped it between the two trees. And the purpose was for the new wanting to be Scout will go in and say, my name is so and so, and I choose to do this. Right. The idea wasn't to go make it all the way across, because you had to balance yourself. Obviously, you got spotters on each side to catch you if you fall. But the idea was to try to take a step and feel that fear and take that extra step, and try to do as much as you can, while balancing, but taking an extra step. The whole purpose wasn't just to get across. And yes, you got an applause if you went across, but that wasn't the intent. The intent was to understand that your goal is to challenge your fear and push yourself just a little more. Right. And that was always the foundation. And when I set goals for myself, it was like, I want to be able to learn something more, to push myself to accomplish what I set out to do. But you also have to be realistic as to what you have, what skills you need, and what things are at your disposal. What I see a lot of people failing to do, and why they get discouraged into setting goals, is because you get hyped up. Yeah, I want to do this, right? But you forget that you have to take actions every day, and you have to make sure that you take those little actions every day. And eventually you'll get to a point in which you could start measuring. But if you get too excited and you gung-ho yourself, but you don't take those actions every day, then you become discouraged. Then you just start, bucking it and putting it aside. Yeah. And before you know, it's too late. Yeah. Time already passes you by. And then you get more discouraged. And then you get more discouraged. This is not working. Yeah. This is not working. Yeah. So that's what I always tell people to go back. Like, why do you want this? Like, you brought up the weight thing. And this is one of the things that most people struggle with. Mm-hmm. Why do you want to lose weight?
For health, it's a lot. Yeah, a lot of people do it because of health.
I beg to differ.
They want to look good.
Exactly.
Okay.
Let's not bullshit her, right? It's like most people want to.
Is that why you want to lose weight?
Me?
Yeah, you want to look good.
No, I want to. No,
you want to maintain that physique of yours.
No, I don't really want. I want to just lose a little. I just want to be able to work in my garage or work out and not having to be like, oh my God, I'm sore the next day. So then there
are some people who are losing weight because of their health.
Of course, but I don't think that's the majority of.
But that wasn't the question.
What was the question?
The question is, why do you want to lose weight?
Me?
Mm-hmm. And I said because of health. Why would an individual? Most people are doing it because they are doing it for their health. They might have like a genetic issue, and they want to make sure they don't like fall into that same, whatever. And that's good, but also but I and to look good, of course.
Again, that's the thing that I'm always like hesitant because people have to be honest about the reasons why they're doing something. Mm-hmm. Because if you're doing something because your health depends on it, you're more likely to just
So if I was saying,
it takes.
So if I was saying I want to lose, realistically, I know I could lose about 15 pounds, and it would not hurt me to lose 15 pounds right now. Mm-hmm. When I'm saying it, I'm thinking, it would help with maybe blood pressure, cholesterol, health, wise, my parents have certain, issues, and I can have those underlying issues. I want to address that. Mm-hmm. But I also want to look good. I'm trying to look good too. I want to look good. Mm-hmm. So that's what you're saying. If you're going to do it, just put it all out.
You have to understand, like you have to be truthful to yourself as to why you're doing what you're doing.
I understand.
Because if you're doing it and you're doing it all because my friends are doing it, because it is a trend, because everybody's doing it, that's what you're supposed to do, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons and it won't be as important to you. So you won't push yourself to actually get them accomplished.
So then that sort of leads into the next question.
Do you feel confident? Do you feel confident that we ask like what are goals? Do you feel confident? Like I don't know if we answer the question, right? Did we answer it?
We said that it helps build self-esteem and confidence, promotes the idea of self-mastery, stretching yourself, accomplishing something, establishes consistent and positive behaviors. You want to do it again. You said that. Goal setting helps you to stay focused, gives you drive, and is motivating.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like once you get in yourself in a role and you accomplish things, some people... I like writing them down, and that we write all our goals down and we evaluate them as to where we're going, and we do that every 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and so that goes part of the plan. When we get into planning, we start talking about that. But the idea is that if you set a goal for yourself, it could be something simple, and I suggest people when they start something small, like something very small. Like I'm gonna eat before 6:00 every day. I'm not going to eat after 6.
So this is what you're alluding to is what I'm trying to get into the next question, which is how do we set goals? How do we go about setting goals? Because you're talking about doing something that is now you're getting into the SMART goals, for example. You know what I mean? So what are SMART goals? I mean, you're the expert in this. What are the SMART goals? Are it's a framework for setting goals to accomplish those goals. A lot of people use the SMART goals, or it's mostly used in strategic planning. So SMART goals it's an acronym for specific. So you want to be specific about your goal. You want to be able to, how are you going to measure that goal? It has to be attainable, something that's needs to be realistic, and you have to have a time frame, a timetable. Yeah, because you want, if you have those things mapped out, then you can most likely, or at least hopefully, accomplish the goal, but then get to a point where you're like, all right, maybe this is not working for me. Let me go back and adjust in other areas, right?
Yeah.
And that's the idea of the SMART goal framework. So that's, and that's what you were alluding to. You said that we do our goals every year you and I sit down and we plan. It's usually at the end of the year, which is what most people do. And you and I, just to put our full disclosure out there, transparency, we sit down and we go over our individual goals and our collective goals. And I think that most of our successes, because we have not attained every goal, but we've attained a lot of the goals that we put out there, is because we sat down separately, wrote down our individual goals, and then we got together and we wrote our collective goals and we talked about those things, and we did the SMART goal framework. We said, is this specific? Is this really what we want? How do we want to achieve this? When are we going to achieve? And we did that. We said, we're going to do this by, June of, for this instance, it would be June 22, and we did that, and we were able to, and we've been able to consistently accomplish a lot of our goals. And I think that by doing that, it has elevated us as a couple. One, it's strengthened our relationship. It's built what we talked about initially, which is that self-esteem and confidence that we have the ability to do this both individually and collectively. And it's also furthered our desires to do more. You know what I mean? And I think that that's really important. I didn't think I was ever going to go on for a doctorate. And, and we were in California and we were like, how are we going to do this? And we talked it out when we were there. And when we came back home, we were like, all right, let's make this happen. And we did it. And, but we made goals and we did it that way, So there's actually a method. Again, I'm digging back into my Boy Scout past. And this is one of the things that we used to do, is that before like right after summer camp, which is like in the first week of August, like all the leaders used to go away for like 3 days or so. And we used to do our goal setting for the year, and we used to do our planning, right? And the first part is you identify what your goal is, right? And then you have to do a brainstorm, right? And this is something that I feel that is an art that is a dying art. The brainstorming?
Yeah.
The planning session?
Yeah, like, the brainstorming session, because the planning is one thing. Everybody wants to get to the planning, right?
So you're saying brainstorming separate from planning?
Brainstorming is the first part.
Okay.
Right? So you have your goal. The next part is your brainstorm, right? Because what happens, and you see it in institutions, when I've been in many meetings in which we're doing a planning session, but there's already a method and a conclusion in mind, right? And that's not really what a brainstorm is, because a brainstorm is bringing people together and if you do it as an individual, is actually doing the investigation to figure out what are all the possible ways to make this situation, this goal come to life, and that is the brainstorm, right? Let's do a practical example. And let's take, for instance, you are a person that just graduated high school, and you want to go away for college. You want to go away to college, or you don't want to live in a dorm, right? So your goal is to by, let's say college starts in September, right? So let's say by August 15th, I will have a place to live off campus that is within this certain, that will cost me less than $1,000, right? That will cost me less than $1,000 with all utilities included, right? That's your goal, right? Now is, how do I make that happen? Now that's the brainstorming part, because now you have to start just putting ideas on that. Well, one idea is I could get a roommate. I could get several roommates. I could rent an efficiency. I could do this. I could do all these different things, right? I could commute to a place, close to school. You have to figure out all the possible ways in which you could get this accomplished, right? After you do that, then you got to start narrowing down what are the best possible solutions for getting this done. So if I only want to pay $1,000 and I'm looking around and you're investigating and you see that rent for an efficiency goes for $1,500, that's outside of your budget, right?
So then you have to start thinking too about what you're willing to sacrifice.
What are you willing to sacrifice? So it's like, okay, if I have $1,000 and I need $500 extra, that means that I have to go to school, and then I may have to get a full-time job, or I may have to get a job, or I may have to get something else to compensate that.
Right.
Because, I'm much rather be alone than be with roommates.
Right.
So, or you have to kind of like compromise and say, well, let me just take 1 year to live with a roommate, save money. That means that since you want to live alone, that means that you're not going to go out as much in the weekends. You got to sacrifice that, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to mitigate these things, because you're confined within a certain spectrum of you're sacrificing now because you're going to school to get more knowledge, to get more skills, to get all the tools necessary to be able to broaden your options when it comes to making money. So these decisions right now, you got to really think about all the possible ways and then look at the action plan.
So you're doing, at the same time that you're doing the brainstorming and you're doing all of this stuff, you're also problem solving, because you're saying, oh, this could happen. So if this happens, then this is how I would mitigate that.
Exactly.
I mean? So that's what you're saying.
So when you're planning, right, you kind of like and that's the thing. You brainstorm and you said, okay, this is the possible way. This is the best possible way. I'll give you my personal example. Again, another personal anecdote, right? When I decided to go to UCF, right, I knew that I had to work full time in order to live, right? I know how much money I needed to make each month. And I wanted to move by myself, but I couldn't. So I ended up moving with my roommate, Laura, and we share a 2-bedroom apartment. And after a year, I had enough money saved up. I went out, but I didn't go out as much. My schedule was I went to school in the morning at 8, went to school to around 11 or so, had like a 2-hour break. Then I worked from 1 o'clock all the way to 11 o'clock at night, came home. And that was kind of like my life. But I had to sacrifice because that's what I wanted. I wanted my independence. So whenever you're in the beginning stages of your life, right, you have to make sacrifices. Either way, if you want this, depending upon what you want. I know that I wanted to be by myself. I know that I wanted to be self-reliant, and that's what I wanted. Those were my needs.
But you still had, you still had to attain or pay attention to your needs and your basic.
And I had to make sure that my money was tight. I wanted to make sure that I had my budget. I had to make sure that all my stuff was paid. Yeah. So you have to be and that when you went out, you couldn't just be flamboyant, just spending money. You said, okay, this is how much money I can't go out, go to the movies in the afternoon because I could do only $4 instead of $12. So you have to start mitigating that. Yeah. And there was you have to sacrifice. There, so you have to figure out exactly what that looks like, because if you just did everything, then it won't be comprised. But just to kind of like summarize this part, the idea really is you have to look at all your possible things that are available to you, the things that are at your disposal, right? And then you create an action plan regarding based on that. I say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do this, right?
I think a lot of people in the defense of an individual who really has trouble, I have trouble with unless I have like a diagram. Like if I had if somebody gave me a strategic planning diagram, right? And it said, this is where you're going to start. The next step is here. The next step is here. And they need that diagram. There are all kinds of stuff that you can find online. Yeah. And there are sources out there, particularly like for me, when I was doing my comprehensive exams and whatnot, I used Bryson, who's a big strategic planner, and just taking certain steps from those things can really help an individual to develop a really concrete goal with that is smart or specific, measurable, attainable. You know what I mean?
The problem that I have,
and not to be so technical, because I know that's where you're going to probably go.
Yes.
But I think that if you have sort of something that you can look at and you can say, okay, this isn't concrete for me, but this is a guide. It's just a guide. And that's what I'm trying to get at. I don't want it to be, I'm a visual person. So when I see a diagram or I see something in a book or whatever, and of course I'm sort of like into articles and things like that because that's all I've lived. But when you have something, even if it's just a diagram, like I said, on Google, that will help you to formulate that process, you don't have to follow it to. It's just a guide. It doesn't have to be so concrete.
All plans are speculative. Right?
Yes.
They're all speculations. That means that this is what you have to do. And again, this is another reason why most people fail when it comes to their goal setting, is because they feel, because I wrote it down and I'm doing it, that it's going to succeed. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, they're right? Fluid. And so they feel if you hit obstacles, then you begin to quit. The problem that I have with our formal way of educating kids and educating people is that, and you see this in organizations, right? Strategic planning. Mm-hmm. Only a few people are able to do it. Go fuck out of here.
Everybody can do it.
It's like the idea of planning is really thinking. And again, it's like if you go back and you just reflect and you start thinking about what we're talking about, which is planning and solving problems, setting goals, planning, and then solving problems. This is part of our evolution. This is how the wheel came about. This is how we know that we could eat that, but we can't eat that. Because somebody went out there and tried it and I'm like, no, we can't eat that because it's dead. They may, at a formal education, make it seem like the average person cannot do this without getting some formal training.
And I would agree with you. When it comes to your formative years, I agree with that. But I think when you get into your later years, now as a subject matter expert, right, I can say that now, that a person who really understands, I don't want to use strategic planning because that's not what we're specifically talking about, but it's a great guide, for developing goals.
Yes.
What I mean by that though is that it's not that
it's not that deep.
It's not exactly. It's not that serious. It's not that. And when if you're talking about an organization, which is my area, right, of expertise, you want to get everybody involved, because everybody that's in the bottom people, I hate to say it that way, but that's what I call myself within my organism. I'm at the bottom, what do I have to contribute? I have a lot to contribute.
But the thing is like, so, because I know we're getting more into into structures. Like we want to focus on the individuals,
but I'm just saying,
but I understand what you're saying. And what you're saying is that you have, again, going back to class, going back to, I went and I know this. So what can the janitor tell me about this?
Right.
It's like there is that idea that those people, they don't know how to do this stuff. I know how to do this.
And I certainly don't want to come across that way. I'm just saying that as a person who is all about inclusion and people and building goals and goal setting and things, it's a guide. And
so going back to the person, the idea is that it's like each person needs to take, like, I think this is like the first lesson that we did on values, understanding our basic values and our human needs.
Right.
The idea of understanding like which stage on life you are in. I think that's very pivotal.
Yeah.
Because if you don't understand where you are, if you are a young person, but you want to be up at that level without setting a foundation for yourself, you're gonna have problems along the way. And that's kind of like been one of my fallacies in life. I just want to get there. So I had to learn, and life has taught me to be more patient and to be more reserved when it comes to those type of things. But you have to understand your positions in life, right? So once you understand what your needs are, and you begin to create a goal and actually start brainstorming at like, okay, what are all the possible ways that I could do this, right? And formulate a roadmap. Okay, I'm going to do this by this time. I'm going to, let's say we do the example of a young person moving out. I'm going to move out by August. It's January. Between January and August, since I'm working part-time, I'm going to save $500 each month, right? So that means that you can't be going to Burger King and buying stuff all the time. You can't be going to Starbucks and buying stuff all the time. You have to sacrifice if you're going to save that $500, because if you don't sacrifice, where is it going to come from? So you have to be able to say, okay, this is important and this is not. And then be able to do that. This is one of the things that I see right now. Is like everybody wants to wear the latest fashion, right? And fashion is expensive. So if you have a job, and I'm just kind of like looking at the average person that might work for, let's say $10, $12 an hour, part-time, 25 hours a week, right? You're looking at 10 times 25, that's $250 a week, times 4, you're looking at what? A little bit over $800 minus taxes, so you got like $700. But if you go to Starbucks and then on a monthly basis, you go ahead and buy a $200 pair of shoes, you know, plus you got your cell phone bill, and then you got all this stuff, you end up with almost nothing at the end, but you're spending it all. If your objective in 6 months is to move by yourself, but then you're having the same type of behaviors, then how are you going to get there?
Yeah.
You know, then you're going to just wish. You're going to go ahead and luck and just, you know, what happens. So do something expedient that is going to get you in trouble.
And that's what I was talking about when we first started this episode, is that the educational system doesn't make you understand that it's not that easy when you get out of high school. You know what I mean? And that you have to have like this is a way that you need to think about things. You need to have a plan. You need to have a goal. You need to have, you know what I mean?
But
a lot of kids in high school are like, I want to be a football player. Okay, how are you going to get there?
Well, I always get that because I'm working with teens. Everybody's,
I want to be a rapper.
I want to be a rapper, right? I had this one kid, right? Great artist. I mean, this is poetry wise, rhyme wise, it was great. And I said, we had a music studio, and I'm like, why don't you come and use the music studio? Oh no, Mr. Omar, that's for kids. You don't want to go to school. You have access. I'm here at 11, and there's people here at 11. You can come in, and I'll make sure that you get access to it. Oh, I don't feel like getting up this morning. Yeah. Are you writing anything down? No. So are you performing in front of people? No.
So how bad
it's like, what if you I remember watching a documentary, it was a J. Cole documentary, and he was in Europe somewhere, and he just performed for like 2 hours straight. This dude got in his bus, and he had a studio in the back of his bus. He closed the door and he went to work after 2 hours of performing late at night. It's people don't see that. I mean, they see the accolades and they see the stuff that a lot of these artists, do that, but they don't see the effort that goes into it. And part of it is a plan. You have to have a plan. You have to have a certain amount of time that you dedicate, for individuals who are trying to create something. For instance, like myself, like I have to spend time learning how to produce, how to edit. I have to research. I have to make sure that I improve because I have targets and goals based on my plans that I want to hit.
So you're saying then which is kind of sort of leads into the next phase of this discussion is like you said to have a plan. So you need to have an action plan. I mean, I was talking to my nephew, and he was saying the same thing. I want to be a rapper. Super smart. The ability to write music and stuff is there, but it was the same thing that because we had have an episode on values and needs and Maslow's hierarchy, and I was like, well, okay, well, what's your action plan? What are you doing to get to that place where you want to be a rapper? And it's hard to make them understand that because there's so much sacrifice that goes into doing
it's the same thing you see it with anyone. I mean, anybody that wants to achieve something, they know that there's something's going to be sacrificed, right? Like hyper intellectual people that are really about studying and stuff, they sacrifice a lot. Like many times that you have to sacrifice going to a family event and doing this. You have to sacrifice because that's your ultimate goal.
Yeah.
But if it was more important for you to just go, if that wasn't as important to you, you're just going to go and I'm going to go ahead and hang out. Obviously, you need your time to kind of like balance and figure out how to, but to stick with that, let's go ahead and stick with that example, right? My goal is to become a rapper. I want to be a rapper because to me, this is the basic need that he's feeling because I feel like I have something inside of me that I would like to share with the rest of the world. Okay? Or you could say, I want to be a rapper because I want girls and I want status. You got to be realistic with yourself as to why you want something, but that's something that is realistic, right?
Right.
So then what does it take for me to become a rapper? Well, I'm brainstorming now. Well, I have to have good lyrics. Maybe not nowadays, but I have to have dope beats, right? I have to be able to perform in front of people. I have to be able to record, right? and I have to be able to promote myself. Now, those are 5 different skills that you have to become.
Brainstorming.
You're brainstorming, right? So, all right. Do I know how to rap? Do I have good lyrics? Am I constantly writing? Okay. Am I asking people, hey, can you take a look at my rhymes and tell me what you think?
Right.
Right?
To get feedback.
Give me some feedback so that I could become better. If you're not doing that, then you're just in your mind that you're like, okay, I'm just doing this, right?
Yeah, like who says you're good?
Exactly. Yeah. Number 2, I need to be a performer. Do I practice my performance? Any chance that I get, do I go to a local club or a local place and ask people, hey, do you have an open mic
now,
night?
Are we brainstorming still, or are we in the action planning?
No. Well, we're brainstorming, so this is what a rapper needs. So this is all the stuff that I need in order to get there, right? So now we're planning, right? So now that I need to perform. I need to go to my local area and figure out, okay, well, are there any places in which I could perform for free?
Right.
Because I want to get my talent out there, right?
Right.
Can I do YouTube videos and perform that way and put it out and have people seeing it viral? You got to take those. How do I do that? You're rhyming, you're doing this, right? So you have your 2 things. Then let's just talk about promotion, because that's just the other part. Let's just keep it simple, right? So I want to be able to promote myself. How do I do that? Well, I'm performing. But I also want to create, I want to have a website or a SoundCloud or whatever it is to be able to put my music out there and then be able to, share it. I may market it, meaning I have to learn how to do SEO, search engine optimization, so people could find it, both from YouTube or SoundCloud or whatever. So I need to learn these skills in the next 3 months. And then following in the next 6 months, I want to make sure that I'm actually putting these things into practice, right? That's a quick action plan right there.
Okay. So you went from brainstorming to action planning.
Let's do another example, right? Let's do somebody.
Yeah, let's go through the steps.
Yeah. Let's take someone, for instance, in a different stage of life. That's a young person trying to assert themselves, right? Let's say a person like you and I, who the kids are not home anymore. We're empty nesters. It's just you and I, right?
Empty nesters, but we're happy about it.
Yeah, I just got to get rid of the cats now. But that's a different story. Okay. Right? So let's say you and I right now. Let's say you're right now. What is important to you right now?
Right now, what is important to me at this stage of my life is to finish my what is more commonly known as a dissertation, but I have a project. That's
the goal. That is my goal. Let's go back again. Let's go back to the values and the needs.
Okay. The values and the needs. The needs are, I need to earn that degree. 1, because I need to get past this stage in my life. I'm done with school.
Okay.
That's a need.
No, think about it. Again, this is when it gets a little bit hard, right? Okay. So you're self-actualizing now, right? Why is it that you needed the degree for?
Initially, I thought that I needed it because I was going to be able to use it in work capacity, use it within my organization. But at this moment, that doesn't seem to be the case. But now that that we're doing this business and whatnot, I'm starting to come across opportunities for training, curriculum development, writing, teaching. And so I find that having a doctoral degree, 1, was for my own satisfaction.
Okay, let's start there. Because it made you feel good that you did it.
Selfishly, it makes me feel like I have accomplished something because it's a terminal degree.
Yeah.
And and I don't know what the statistics are, the percentages, and I don't really care.
I'm talking about you.
I don't really care, which is what I was saying. Let me finish. Which is what I was saying is that was a status that was important to me.
There you go.
My education was important because there was a lot of people that didn't think I was very smart, 1, and a lot of people that didn't think I was going to get to where I'm at right now.
Excellent.
And in your face.
So that's why you did it. So again, you did it to prove it to yourself and prove to others, which
even
is
though I shouldn't need to prove it to others, but it's there.
It's a little.
It's a little. A little stab there. Here.
But again, it's like now you're being honest, and this is great.
I am being honest. You know what? And I want the whole world to know that.
Yes.
You know what? I worked my ass off to get to where I'm at right now.
Yes.
And nobody can take that away from me.
Precisely. So remember in the hierarchy of needs, right? There's that part about esteem, right? Self-esteem, right?
I was just going to say,
there's self-esteem.
Building my confidence. It built my confidence.
There
and
you
now
go.
that I'm embarking on people asking me to do trainings for them that could be an exponential situation. I'm invigorated. I feel alive. I feel like, oh wow, these people want my expertise. They think that I'm a subject matter expert.
So you want to be useful.
Of course, I want to give back.
You want to get back.
That's the whole idea.
So that's the reason. The reason was not just to do it just for the sake of do it. It's because number one, you wanted to have the steam in yourself that is like, I was able to do that, right? You also wanted to show the naysayers that that felt that you would never be able to do that you did it. Those two things are important to understand because when we're setting goals, we have to understand why we're doing them. And that's part of the the esteem area, the self-esteem, because there's esteem that comes from us and esteem that comes in relations to others, right?
Okay.
And that's a perfect reason as to why to get it. So there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
A lot of people think that, oh my God, I'm such a bad person because I'm doing.
No, I don't feel like a bad person.
But a lot of people feel some type of way because of that. I always tell like the people that I worked with and all that stuff, I am one of the most selfish people you will ever meet.
That's
because
true. That's true.
It is because when I work with kids and I work with young people and see them grow, it made me feel good.
Yeah.
It made me feel like I was doing something that it meant something.
So you were selfish for
I was
that?
extremely selfish.
Okay.
So now the reasons why I'm doing this is because number one, I want to be autonomy. I want autonomy. I want to be able to say things and do things that is my own vision and not manifesting or working on somebody else's vision.
You mean the reason why we're doing a soul's
quest?
quest?
Reason why we're doing a soul's quest and all, that's it's our vision. It's something that comes from within that I want to do. And
we're helping. We want to help people.
Yes,
right. For me, that's an important part of it.
But it's important. It's like to me, I love doing the trainings, the interviews because you learn so much about people and you see that humanity is not at a loss. It's like you see so many good things, right? So now we understand why we're doing this, right? So and now we have to come up with a plan, right? So the first thing that we talked about, let's talk about the podcast, right? Number one, how we're going to get this message out. And this is something that's been in my head for a long time. So I didn't know anything about podcasting. So I had to learn all these technical things, spend weeks looking at cameras and looking at microphones and looking at the lights and all that stuff, right? So you had to make sure that you learn that. But I know the objective was I wanted to express myself and I wanted to hear somebody else's voices besides the predominant voices that we see in the world right now. People that might be considered average, but they're by far average, so we wanted to hear that. So we started with the podcasting and it was just voice. Then it became, oh my God, we have to add, YouTube into the mix. Then we have to add, and all the technical stuff that comes with it. So now that we had a plan, so the objective was we wanted to launch the podcast by May 31st of 2021, right? And we did that. We actually launched it, I think, on May 21st or something like that. So we launched that. But as you begin to go into that, then you start presenting with challenges. I hate calling them problems, but challenges. Because the idea of a plan is that you start discovering things as you go along. So
then that's good because you went like you've been doing like what our interviewees do. They lead us right into the next one.
There you go.
Because the next thing that I want to talk about was the problem solving and the 3 C's.
Yes.
So how you just said that getting into the problem solving and whatnot. So what do we?
So life is complicated, right?
Right.
And there's things that are thrown at you and situations that are thrown at you that you have to be able to adjust and you have to be able to adapt. That's just part of life. You have to innovate or die.
Right.
That's the thing. So you set your goal, you understand your why, you understand your goal, and you set your action plan. You have to understand that there will be problems along the way and challenges on the way. First, you're going to try to predict what some of those issues might be. right?
That's what you do in strategic planning.
That's what you do. What are some of those issues that might be? For instance, let's say you're that young person that moves out by August, right? And you say, okay, I was able to save, my expenses are $1,000 a month. I was able to save $6,000 for just to cover my expenses for 6 months, right? So I have 6 months to find a job that gives me $1,000 a month. But you in month number 3 and you haven't found that job. What are your options? That's a challenge that you need to figure out how to do it, right? You have to figure out how to manage that, right? One of the issues that for instance, one of the challenges that you confronted, right, is that you started in one area, human services, actually business and human services, then public administration. And then when you went into public administration, you realize, oh my God, there's a lot of gaps in leadership when it comes to public administration, right? So then what did you do?
I looked for a degree that would give me a strategic leadership aspect.
Exactly.
That's what I wanted.
So when you set the map, right, and you set the roadmap and you saw the challenge, it's like, oh, this is a challenge, but here's an opportunity for me to learn that and then be able to go back to the public service degree and be able to apply these leadership skills to this particular thing. So it, as you begin to develop, then you start seeing all the little branches of stuff, right? It's the same thing with here. We started, our son Jacob started producing and then editing everything. And it was a lot of time, from him to be able to do that. So you started researching and you start looking into OBS and you start looking into all these things because you have to figure out a way to make things more streamlined,
right,
and make it more efficient,
right.
Well,
if not, this could consume an individual.
It could consume a lot of your time.
Other things going on. So then, what do you mean by like the 3 C's? What
C's,
is that?
yes.
Then?
So
This is applicable to problem solving.
Yes, this is. Ken, who's our Scout Master, he used to call it the 3 C's. And this is just back in the early 90s that he taught us this. People right now call it the constant improvement cycle, right? Is that, so you check. So you have your plan, right? You adjust it for any challenges. Now you have your targets, right? Because you set SMART goals. They're measurable, they're attainable, they have a timetable. So let's say 3 months come in, right? And your goal was to maintain and sustain, for let's say that young person, maintain and sustain $1,000 living
by getting a job
by myself, by getting a job and doing that. If 3 months come in and I haven't accomplished that, then you have to check. 3 months come in because as you have to measure it. In 3 months, one, am I making $1,000 each month? If the answer is yes, great. You continue. Yeah, because you check. It's working, so you don't have to cancel it. So continue doing it.
The check is comparable to evaluating,
to assessing,
to assessing where you are at this point.
Exactly, and just assess it. Right, you're assessing that it's working. You're checking to make sure that everything's working. Right. If something's not working, oh my God, this is not working. Like living in this place by myself, I live in an efficiency, but there's people living in here, and they make too much noise, and I can't sleep and I can't study. I have to change something. So you check. I got to cancel that, and I got to come up with another plan.
Right.
And then continue.
So then you go back to the drawing board?
Yes. And then now you have to find another place to live.
So it's not really back to the drawing board. It's more like,
adjusting.
All right, these things are working, so I need to fix this aspect, or I need to address this aspect to keep going on this
And there'll be parts of things that are just working just perfectly.
That you don't need to do anything
And then there are other aspects that are, I could do this much better.
Right.
I could change this. I could let me cancel that and improve on this, Like
so the whole idea then really is that when you do this constant improvement plan or check,
the constant improvement cycle, right,
that you are becoming even you're adding to that self-esteem security aspect, because you're still, okay, that didn't necessarily work out, but I'm aware enough to understand that this was a possibility.
Yes.
And now I can implement another plan or another way of getting to this goal, this overarching goal.
And I think this is when most people go go
instead of quitting.
This is what is demoralizing, right? Because you feel like, okay, I should accomplish this in this goal, because you have this. You have like like, let's say for instance, when you buy like a diet program or something like that, the expectation is said, oh my God, I lost 45 pounds in 3 months. So your expectation is said that you're going to get there in that particular amount of time, even though they say no, all the things vary. You see that because that's the power of advertising. That's the power of things. By the time you're 25, you should be here. If you're not here, you're done. But again, it's like everybody's different. Everybody's quest is completely different.
It's like even thinking about, like, for example, I know an individual who was unfortunately, he separated from his position, and, had he not had that presence of mind to say, I'm in this really great position right now. Let me get myself out of debt. Let me take care of this. He had an action plan. He paid off some debts. He did this. He did all these different. He did the goal setting. He did all of that stuff. Then he was separated from his position. Then he was like, oh shit. Okay. But I did this, and this. So I don't really need a job that pays me this much money. I could really live off of this just in case I don't find a job that pays me this much money.
And I could do other things.
And I can do exactly.
Yeah.
Now this person is actually working not a mediocre job, a job that he likes, but he's also now doing some sort of art or whatever, and pursuing other passions that with this other job
he wasn't able to do.
So, which I thought was really, it's like, it's eye-opening. It's just like, oh wow, that's
because you start discovering, again, going back to the basic needs, right? Going back to the basic needs as to what do I really need in my life.
And he said that I wasn't really doing things that I wanted to do. I was just living for this job.
Yes.
And not doing all these other things that I enjoy.
Now, again, and I said this before, right? Because we have, right now, the big thing in the news is the great exodus from the working world, right? So if people are finding other ways and means to have their basic needs met, instead of going to a place that is demoralizing and enslaving and not asserting of the self, like, why do you think that happens? It's like, so when you start looking at a society and then you start evaluating, okay, what really is important? Is the economy the important thing, or is it the well-being of its individuals?
Yeah.
I thought society was meant for the individuals, not. So when you start looking at those things, then you start understanding, like, and people may not be able to articulate it, but the idea is that it's like they want to live a life that is more fulfilling.
Right.
That doesn't mean necessarily not doing anything, because I don't agree with not doing anything, because that's a recipe for disaster. It's important to understand your basic needs. Right. Even if you have your foundational physiological and psychological needs met, there's those other needs of socializing, of being able to find out more about who you are. Those things that you have to go after, to explore. Those things are there. And our society is kind of like falling behind because we're so concerned about production and economy rather than what the individual is needing, So, but to kind of like bring it all together, right? Like let's bring it all together.
Let's do that.
Right? The point is that first, like we said in the previous episode, you have to know.
We just talked about this.
You have to understand your why. If you don't understand, like, where do you start? Look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There's the physiological needs of security, safety, food, shelter, water, those basic things. Then they become your psychological needs that need to have a career or a profession in which you could sustain yourself. A strong foundation of who you are as a person, right? Then the process of your relationships and those things that are important to you, either a family, friends, a community, that sense of belonging to a group, right? Those things are key, are important. And then after that is to find out, explore and search for the things that make that are coming from within. And nobody could tell you what that is, on how to get there. It's like you have to explore it. And the way you do that is by, when you set all these goals, you start discovering things, right? because if you just go by happenstance, it may happen, but you have to give it some thought, you know, and this foundationally would lead you to places that you will never think, you know, and you will never know. So the idea is that, you know, set goals, brainstorm to create an action plan, look for all the possible ideas, ask people for suggestions as to, hey, listen, this is what I need to be. What are your suggestions on how I could get there? You know, there's people that are willing to just talk to you just cause. Don't be afraid of that. You know, even people that are not close to you. I suggest not even talk to people that are close to you, because those are the ones that are first are going to say, what are you talking about? You know, look outside of sources. Like, what are all the possible ways that people got to that point, right? Understand that you know, try to anticipate what challenges will come about and try to mitigate what those challenges might be. You know, possible solutions while the situation is happening. What are your possible solutions when the things take place, right? Since you're setting SMART goals, you have targets and dates. And I always suggest people check every 30, 60, and 90 days. All right? 30, 60, and 90 days. I think those are good markers. I mean, if you set a goal for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the line, they're too far away. So 30, 60 days. And it doesn't have to be very, very complicated. It has to be, you know, I'll do this stuff with our business, you know, with the Soul's Question. It's like, okay, by this amount of time, and you're like, you're so anal when it comes to this stuff. It's like, by this amount of time, I want to be at this certain point, and this is what needs to happen. But
I think what I'm trying to say is that
you're just making
just for clarity. No. Oh no. You're not off the hook. Just for clarity.
Yeah.
It's important for individuals, our audience, our listeners, our viewers, to understand that when you go through this process of goal setting, planning, going through all this stuff, first of all, it isn't for the faint of heart. It isn't easy to do these things and to be in that self-actualizing, you know, process, because that's what you're doing, right? You're trying to get to that level of self-actualizing, which doesn't ever stop.
Well, it's not a level. It's just a process. It's like the goal. It's just life. It's just creating.
That's what I just said. Yeah, it's ongoing, right? So that's okay. You can clarify. And I
like it when you put me on my spot.
Thank you. Hold on. Let me finish. But what I also think is really important, that probably sounds, you know, whatever to you, and it does, because you've literally said this to me, is that you have to be able to celebrate those milestones. Okay. So when I passed my comprehensive exams, let me back up. When I finished my coursework for school, okay, because this is what's going on in my world right now, school, I celebrated that. And I was super happy. I was Snapchatting it. I was like talking about it. I'm like, I'm done with school. I just submitted my last assignment. I'm done. I celebrated it. Then I did my comprehensive exams. I was terrified through that process, because this dictates that I become a doctoral student, go from being a doctoral student to a doctoral candidate. Completely different. Like it's this esteemed estate in this process, right? In this journey, in my quest. So I cried. I called you and I was hysterical. Like, oh my God, I did it. And you were like, I knew you would. You have to celebrate these moments. And whatever that means to an individual, to celebrate those moments is really important. I know that when we were talking about how many subscribers we had on YouTube, I was like, oh my God, we just went from here and we just gained like 400 subscribers. It was like 4 days. And I was freaking out. And Sierra, our other producer, was like, oh my God, we were both super happy. And we called you up on the phone and you were just like, well, it's not that big of a deal. It's whatever. And we were just like, no, that's what I said. You need to match our energy. Those are Sierra's words. I stole them from her. You did not match our energy. No. And we were disappointed by that, but we were super happy.
Yes.
But my point is that I don't think that people give themselves enough credit for these things. And you have to. It could be the littlest thing. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm horrible at that. Like that's one thing I'm very hard on myself.
Okay.
I'm very hard on myself.
Well, this ain't about you. I'm just talking about like in general.
But I could relate to what you say, because it's like if we don't get that to that point in a certain amount of time, it's not good. It's something like
you feel defeated.
You feel defeated.
You can't do that.
And like I could tell you, for instance, that I like I said, like past jobs and stuff, I set like certain targets of what I wanted to accomplish and how I wanted to accomplish. And I always had a hard time because there was people that, average and whatever and not good enough was okay. And I just didn't like that. And I pushed myself really hard. I remember this wonderful woman, Miss Beulah. She used to be my membership clerk, which is a wonderful woman. And I tell her, man, she's like, this is really good. And I'm like, it's not good enough. The kids is like, what more do you want? It's like, this is great, the way these kids are and everything. But that's a personal thing.
No, I get that.
And that's something that is a kind of like a driving force, but also it's detrimental. And you're right. It's like for everyone, like you accomplish something small, you need to recognize it and celebrate it. Because
and whatever that means, it could be for me, when I have a list of like all the things that I'm doing, when I'm able to cross that off, that to me is celebrating. Like, I did that, I'm done. You know what I mean? I'm next. I'm next. You know what I mean?
And that's one of the lessons that I've learned as I've gotten older. It's to be able to look at things with, oh, wow, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, with softer eyes.
With softer eyes.
Yeah, to be able to appreciate the effort, the time, the energy, the sacrifices, the journey, the quest. I don't want to say journey, it's a quest. The quest to that you did this and that you've come this far.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people don't appreciate themselves and don't give themselves enough credit for the things that they do, and that is an issue. It's a societal issue.
So again, let's go back to the individual, and this is one of the things that
because we need to wrap this up. Wrap it up, B. Sorry.
We might get sued by Dave Chappelle for saying that. Okay, so I don't know. I mean, I don't think we're that important for this Dave Chappelle to sue us.
Wrap it up, B.
But anyways, but again, it's like, I believe, like, in my personal life, being fortunate enough to understand these basic skills at a young age, like, they've been very helpful in my life. And again, if you measure me against anybody else, I may not have accomplished their level or whatever. In fact, some people think that I'm whatever, that I suck.
Who cares?
But I don't care. I mean, I think I live my life the best way that I can and go for that. So one of the things that I always tell people is, like, you have to measure yourself against you and what you want. And that's hard to do in our society. And I think that's what you're alluding to. But if you understand your needs, your basic needs, and you hold those things dear, which is needs, your values, you hold those dear. Again, you set those goals, right? Create action plan for those goals. Deal with the challenges and problem solve for those challenges. Check, cancel, and continue. Do the 3 C's or the constant improvement cycle to evaluate and see if you're heading in the direction that you want. And through all that, still stay open for other possibilities of doing something differently or better or more efficient. Then you have something to build on.
If you like this episode, make sure that you subscribe, like, share, and please leave us a comment or leave us some feedback. We want to hear back from you and have some dialogue with our audience and our listeners. If you want to know more about what we're doing, check us out at asoulsquest.com.